The Return to Work program is actually a part of the Injury and Illness Prevention program and is designed to do a couple things. One is it lets everybody know that they're cared about and that we want you back at work as much as possible. There is no substitute to somebody else doing your job. We want you back at work. It's important to avoid sending the employee to the emergency room unless it's a true medical emergency to save on costs. When we're talking about modified duty and a temporary transitional kind of job, it's important to remember that the treating physician is the one who determines what the restrictions are. That's not the employer's job. The employer's job is to identify job tasks that are compliant with that restriction so that the employee can come back to work and work those modified types of job duties. Employees are entitled to pre-designate a physician to treat them for workers' comp injuries. If the employee chooses and the physician agrees to accept that pre-designation, all future treatment for a workers' comp injury is done by that physician. If the employee does not pre-designate, the employer has the option to determine where that employee will be treated for purposes of workers' comp treatment. We always recommend at least a weekly phone call to the injured worker while they're at home recovering, just to check up on status, make sure they're happy, that their treatment is going as well as planned. Not every workplace injury needs to be reported to the insurance company. Labor Code in California defines what is a first aid injury for purposes of workers' comp determination. It goes beyond what you might typically think of as a first aid injury, which would just be a Band-Aid on a scratch. Labor Code in California actually defines a workplace first aid injury as an injury that requires a single visit to a doctor with a second visit to the same doctor for follow-up only. So for example, if an employee is injured, for example, gets cut on the arm, send them to your doctor, and the doctor puts a butterfly bandage on the arm, and the employee doesn't have any lost time, and the doctor will typically schedule a follow-up visit to make sure the injury is healed normally. If the second visit is only to observe the injury and to make sure that healing has finished, you can consider that to be a first aid injury, and first aid injuries can be retained, which means you can pay those yourself and not report that claim to the insurance company. That's going to result in a significant savings down the road. Using the same example where a person has been cut, and rather than a butterfly bandage put on the arm, the doctor puts 2 stitches in the arm. So the first visit is to the doctor for the stitches and the evaluation. The second visit, the employee goes to the doctor and the doctor takes out the stitches. On the second visit, it's no longer observation because the doctor has performed a procedure which included taking out the stitches. That injury is no longer first aid because it goes outside the definition of the second visit, including a procedure and not just observation.